Oh, hello, Kill Team friends. Today's video we're going to be talking about the FAQ and Errata that dropped just before the World Championships of Warhammer. I kind of neglected to do a video on it because I was feeling a bit under the weather and then out caught up in all the World Championship stuff, but I've seen everybody else's video and I've got some extra bits to say and my own takes on stuff, so let's get into it. So, first of all, the universal equipment. Now, I want to read some of this stuff carefully. We'll speed up as we go through as they start to repeat things, right? So it says, this section collects amendments to the rules. Amended text for clarification and edits are shown in blue, while amended text for balance updates are shown in magenta. So what they are saying here, if you believe them, is everything that's in blue is Games Workshop saying, oh, we meant the rule to be this way, we play tested the rule this way, we just failed to communicate it properly in the written text, or potentially that the people playing failed to understand what we tried to communicate. But there's been a communication problem. But the game, as far as we were concerned in Nottingham, in our playtest room, right, in the designer's head, everything in blue is just more properly making it reflect what it already was, right? Meanwhile, things in magenta are things where they're admitting, no, we thought it was fine before, but we've changed it to make it more balanced, right? Now, there is one magenta change in this whole update, right? And it's on this page, so we're going to start right here with razor wire. So, razor wire. Second sentence change to read. Before the battle, you can set it up wholly within your territory on the kill zone floor and more than 2 inches from other equipment and terrain features, access points and accessible terrain. So what this is saying is you can't place razor wire, or indeed, as we'll see, a great many other things, within 2 inches of access points and accessible terrain. Now, access points are doors on the Gallowdark, right? Accessible terrain are doors on Volcus. Accessible terrain is also all of the floor in Beta Decima, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but it's all set as accessible so you can climb through it for an inch. We'll get there, right? So that's the first change. Your razor wire has to be 2 inches at least away from effectively doors, right? And then it says, obstructing rule change to read, whenever an operative would cross over this terrain feature within an inch of it. I'm still not sure what that within an inch of it is doing there. It would still read better as whenever an operative would cross over this terrain feature. But sure. Treat the distance as an additional 1 inch. And that 1 inch used to be 2 inches. And that 1 inch is the sole example of a magenta change. So barricades were, in the designer's eyes, originally meant to be it's an extra 2 inches to climb, which is how we were playing them, right? So the over is just changed for readability, but now it's an extra 1 inch to climb. So total, it'll be 3 inches to climb a barricade, to climb a razor wire, right? 3 inches to climb a razor wire, which means that if you are a 5-inch move team, if you start next to the razor wire, you can actually get over the razor wire and still place yourself on the other side without much issue, right? Yeah, good. And then, I'm not going to read everything else, but for mines, you can't place them within 2 inches of any kind of door. For heavy barricades, you can't place them within 2 inches of any kind of door. Light barricades, you can't place them within 2 inches of any kind of door. And the little feet on the front and the back of the barricade are insignificant and exposed, which essentially means ignore that they exist for any purpose, right? They've put those there so the barricade doesn't fall over all the time. They're not there to actually have a mechanical difference to the game. That's fine, that's good. Portable barricade can't be initially placed more than within 2 inches of an access of a door of any kind, essentially. But given that you can move the portable barricade, that's not a massive problem. The biggest thing with portable barricade is you have the ability to do move with barricade. And essentially the clarification here is that if you have any rules that remove you and set you back up like the Hearthkin Salvager, Fly, the Mandrake Fly, the Mandrake Shadow Passage, right? Things like that. You can't do those with a portable barricade. So we're not doing random things to move our barricade. It must be an actual um, normal move reposition that you do when you're doing move with barricade, even if you have some faction rules that let you do something else instead of a reposition. Okay, good. Moving on. So core rules changes. Something I hadn't come across, but is apparently a thing. With Volkus city fight. So the city fight has those little firing steps in those little boxes. If you're on the fire steps, you still count as being within the stronghold terrain feature, right? And therefore you're still subject to the condensed stronghold rules. Cool. Now the fudge with Beta Decima. So like I said, in Beta Decima, all the flat pieces of gantry are flagged as accessible, so you can move through them for an inch. And they've explicitly changed it in the previous rules so you can't put placeable terrain within 2 of accessible terrain. But if you're playing Beta Decima, you can place placeable terrain within 2 of accessible terrain because you're allowed to put the placeable terrain on top of the gantries and walkways. Now, there is an unforeseen consequence of this fudge that we'll get to later when we look at the team rules. So for now, it's fine, but I need to flag it up because I'm going to mention it later, right? So just understand the basic state of play is that the universal terrain that you place can't be within 2 inches of accessible terrain except on Beta Decima, and then it has a special exception for that equipment, right? Okay. Rules commentary. Question. In the resolve attack dice step of the shoot action, in what order are successes resolved in? How does it interact with my rules that reduce or ignore damage from the first attack dice? E.g. Corsair, Void Scarred, Warding Shield, Hernkin, Jaeger, Tough Survivalists. Answer. Successes resolve simultaneously. The defender can select one of their successes being resolved to reduce or ignore. So you roll all your dice, and the defender picks which dice they're going to interact with when they have an ability to reduce your shooting. Fine, that's what I would have thought. How does the guard action interact with rules where the operative must perform a shoot action with a specific weapon, e.g., Phobos Strike Team, Astartes, Commando, Dash, and Dash? You can perform the guard action so long as the relevant weapon is selected if it performs the shoot action during the interrupt. So that seems interesting. I've not played Into the Dark yet in this edition, but I hadn't quite worked out that you could. I don't know, maybe I haven't thought about it, but if you have a bolt rifle and you're an Astartes, you can shoot your bolt rifle with one shot and then go on guard with the second shot, and then you have to shoot the bolt rifle for the second shot. Fine. Fine and good. Fine and good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If an operative's rules allow you to place a marker, e.g. the Hernkin Jaeger's Hypex Mines, Vesper Stingwing Neutron Bombardment, then that operative is removed from the kill zone. Is that marker removed? No, unless specified. So if there's no longer a general rule that says that if you die, your markers are removed, it has to say in the character card. And some do, but it has to say in the character card. Question for the Power Surge crit op: can a player pass and not use the strategic gambit to select one objective marker to be surged? No. So it's one of those things that you must do, like selecting your critical objective, you must do it. And this is all very interesting when it comes to the Hand of the Archon, right, and their ability to gain a command point if they pass in the strategic gambit phase at the first available opportunity. So it's just, this is not an available opportunity. If you have playing Power Surge, you must do this, and then you can still gain your CP at the next actual opportunity, right, which is fine. And then we've got this one on the bottom. Question for the confirmed kill op: if a friendly operative meets the victory requirements for 2 different confirmed mission markers, can I remove them both for 2VP? Yes. I hadn't really thought about this. But yeah, you can remove both mission markers if you're stood on them both. Maybe it's been a big melee brawl and you've killed 2 guys. So that's pretty cool. Right, on to the team rules. So Corsair Void Scarred. Right, so Storm Duelist Operative Pistol Barrage Action. Condition change to read. This operative cannot perform his action while it has a conceal order or during an activation in which it performed the shoot action. Right, so Kill Team has a few rules which could be universal special rules if that was a thing that Kill Team had. It has a few rules that are repeated text again and again on various data cards. And Pistol Barrage, although it's not always called Pistol Barrage, is one. Basically, this is here to let you have your gunfighter style, dual pistol wielding desperado style operative. And it says that you can shoot with both your pistols, right? Now, when this edition of Kill Team released, all these rules were read so that you could shoot with both your pistols irrespective of any other thing. So it would meant effectively you could shoot once with a weapon of your choice and then shoot again with that weapon and for a third time with your sort of rubbish pistol, right? So in the case of, models where you've got like a melter pistol like this does, that's quite a big deal. So that seemed off, and I flagged that up. I haven't reviewed the Void Scarred yet, but I flagged it up when I reviewed the Inquisition with their plasma pistol lady. And people in the comments were saying, "Oh yeah, no, obviously it was like obviously yes, the wording was uncontroversial. You could do it. We were discussing whether it was intended, and now we can see from this and the many changes like this we're going to get that it was not intended. So these pistol barrage type weapons, they are mutually exclusive with the normal shoot action. So you can shoot both your pistols, but it's often going to be for a lot of these models a good weapon and a bad weapon, and you can shoot both. So you can't shoot the good weapon as normal and then shoot the good weapon again and a bad weapon. I hope that makes sense. I'm not going to go into much detail when this comes, but this will come up again and again and again. I'm not going to go into detail again and again and again. Okay. The Scout Squad. So there's a couple of things in here again. Like I say, this is going to speed up as we go along. So, faction rule forward scouting booby trap. First sentence change to read: place one of your booby trap markers more than 6 from your opponent's drop zone and more than 2 from other markers' access points and accessible terrain. Right now, they've put that in the same as they have with the placeable terrain to protect the doors on Volcus. But what there isn't now is an exemption for these things that are in the faction rules that are not placeable, like they're not equipment, they're an ability. There is no exemption for Beta Decima. So if you are a team like Scouts that can place something like this, like a marker, you now can barely use it on Beta Decima because you can't be within 2 inches of any of the raised platforms, right? So you can put it on the ground level because the legs of the things don't have accessible. So if you're on the ground, you're going to be 2 inches away from all the platforms, but you just can't put booby traps and things on those Beta Decima platforms, which makes it a bit difficult to use. And then we're going to talk about Super Conceal. So Kill Team players, the Kill Team commentary out, the Glass Half Deads, the Can You Roller Crits of the world, band around this term Super Conceal. Super Conceal is not a rules term, and it was annoying me. The problem's now been solved. It was annoying me because all of these abilities that we were sort of hand waving as, oh, that's Super Conceal, were all worded slightly differently, right? And what they've gone through is they've gone through and they've normalised all the instances of Super Conceal, which now more than happy to use the term. Now it's a really useful term, right? Because now they all actually have the same wording, so they all do the same thing. So we'll read through this once, and then we'll just say, and Super Conceal's been normalised for this team, right? So, Firefight employs covert position. Change second sentence to read: until the start of its next activation, while the operative has a conceal order and is in cover, it cannot be selected as a valid target, taking precedence over all other rules, e.g. seek, vantage terrain, except being within 2 inches, right? So, you cannot be shot unless they close within 2 inches of you. No way, no how. Good, fine, sorted. That is Super Conceal, and now I'm happy to refer to it as such because Games Workshop have now fixed the thing that was annoying me about it. Exaction Squad. So we're going to look at the Leashmaster card here. The Leashmaster's gained a weapon profile. He's gained the shot pistol. Now, this is not a balance update, and I believe them. It's because the Leashmaster physically has a plastic pistol on his model. It's in his hand. He has a shotgun on his back, and they just didn't give him rules for the shot pistol. Now, the shot pistol is useful because, as you can see, it's it's worse than the close range profile on the shotgun in every way, except it has an extra 2 inches of range, okay, and it's substantially better than the long range profile on the combat shotgun. So there's now, and it's kind of a funny mental image because he's holding his shotgun and he's blasting away and he's closing with the enemy and advancing with his puppy, and then it's like, I'm in the specific distance where my pistol has become optimal because you are 7 or 8 inches away, so I must swap to my pistol for these shots, and then if we close to 6, I'm going to swap back to the shotgun, which it's a little bit funny, but it represents, look, this isn't a balance change, this isn't an attempt to make the Legion Master better, it represents the piece of plastic that Games Workshop have sold you, and that is what Games Workshop are all about, okay? So a very slight buff, I guess. They've said that the repressed faction rule has been added. Not quite sure what's happened here. As far as I can tell, it was always there. Maybe they've moved it around. Was it at one point? Was it on the data cards, people with shields, and now they've taken it off the data cards and put it in the faction rules? I think that may have been what they've done. Nothing material has changed with repress. It's just been moved around, and the PDF file's been tidied up. So don't worry about that. Galapox infected. So we got the super conceal normalization. Okay, and then what we've done is we've added group activation to the curse mite. So, for those of you not particularly familiar with Galapox, they have a collection of mutoid vermin, which are like little gribbly critters, and they have like 3 different flavors of or 4? 3? 4? They have 3, I think, different flavors of mutoid vermin, and they're all pretty rubbish, right? But the curse mite was hands down the best because it didn't have to group activate with the others, and it would get you, if you took all curse mites, you'd get extra activations. That was an oversight. They just didn't print the group activation rule on the curse mite by accident, so they've added that back in. So that's been fixed. Good. Inquisitorial agents. So one of the funny things, if you watch my Inquisitorial agents overview, I talked about the Tome Skull and the Interrogator, who both can pop out these 2 buffs called Denunciation and Sanctification. And Denunciation is really strong, it gives you an extra attack dice, and there was nothing in the rules the way they were previously written to say that if you were in range of both the Interrogator and the Skull, you could have both buffs. And they would stack, and you get +2 attack dice. They've got rid of that, so now you can only benefit from each rule once. You can be in range of both if they have different tomes, and be benefiting from both Denunciation and Sanctification, that's fine. But what you can't be doing is gaining 2 dice from one of those abilities, right? Which makes sense. The Tome Skulls had Super Conceal normalised, which is good. The Pistolier has had Pistol Barrage fixed, normalised, whatever you want to call it, okay? And then there is a rules commentary. Question. If I requisition Exaction Squad operatives, can my other Inquisitorial Agent operatives benefit from the permitted Ruthless Efficiency faction rule? No. Only the requisitioned Exaction Squad operatives can use the Ruthless Efficiency faction rule. Note that this means the requisitioned Exaction Squad operative will not be able to select an enemy operative as the valid target of a shoot action if one of your other Inquisitorial Agent operatives that aren't Exaction Squad are within the enemy operative's control range. So, Exaction Squad have the ability baked in to shoot into combat, and it's just saying that they can only shoot into combat if you're in combat with another Exaction Squad, which makes this kind of suck. It feels like a nerf to me. Obviously, it's in blue, and when it's not even in blue, it's in the commentary. So they're saying this is how they always intended it to work. It just means that you're even less likely to take Exaction Squad as your allies, and even more likely to take Kazakin, right? Now, that's a shame, because Inquisitorial Agents with Exaction Squad, say what you will, it looked cool on the tabletop, right? Of all the factions that seem like they should work with the Inquisition a lot, the Space FBI, right, the Exaction Squad, feel like, it's Space FBI and Space CIA together at last. It feels like how it should work. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But they're less good now. So off you pop. Navy breaches. So we'll take the uncontroversial one first. On the right hand side of your page, the Cat unit and the Geist Skull have gained the normalised text for Super Conceal. Good, 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 good. Team selection. They've gone down from 11 men to 10 men, which is... so they've lost an operative. And as I've said on the slide, this is both a needed change and an absurd change at the same time. So, for those of you not familiar with the backstory, in the box for Navy breaches, you get 10 humans, and you get a skull and a little Robot Wars thing, and so that's 10 humans and 2 pets, effectively. So it's 12 models. What they changed for this edition, breaches used to be a 12 model team in the previous edition, and people would buy a second box to run extra bodies instead of the little pets. What they did was they changed wholesale. They made, basically for this edition, for list building, they invented the concept of half a model. So these pets cost half. If you look at Warp Coven, the Sangors cost half. There's a couple of instances of things costing half. But they forgot to update, I guess, when they were updating it, that they was it's not 11 selections, it's 10, because what they inadvertently did was give breaches an extra model this edition compared to last edition, which meant that you couldn't, well, sort of an extra model, right? If it basically meant that you couldn't build, you couldn't play with the box as is, as you buy it off the shelf. And I agree. You should be able to play with the box that you buy, and I actually also agree that you shouldn't be perversely incentivized to ditch cool and interesting little things, little creatures and stuff, in order to take 2 basic guys with shotguns, because yes, it was better, but it was also more boring. So yes, they've made the worst team in the game worse, and I'm supporting them in doing it because I want them in the balanced data slate, which is coming in a couple of months, to massively buff Navy breaches, but to buff them so that they can be strong and a one-box team. Like, I think that's probably important if people like the idea of them and they pick them up, because they're a Season 2 team. They're going to be around for a long time. They've got 2 more years, or just under, of being valid for competitive play. I want to see them be strong, playable, and I think people want to pick. But also, I don't want them to be another team along with Inquisition where you can't play out of a single box. So I think they needed to make the change, but it also admittedly feels absurd because right now breaches are the worst team. I think that's pretty accurate, right? And they've lost a model, which makes them double worst. So yes, both yes and no at the same time. I am entirely ambivalent about this change. Void Dancers have gained a Super Conceal normalization, and we can move on. Harkin Jaegers have gained a Super Conceal normalization, and they've had this thing where they're placeable stuff, so their mines can't be placed within 2 inches of accessible, which fixes them and makes them more reasonable on Volcus because you can't block off the doors. But as previously discussed, it breaks them a bit on Beta Decima because now you can't put your mines on top of any of the platforms on Beta Decima. Do we care? They didn't even play on Beta Decima at Worlds. Like, I think we should probably I used to quite stand for Beta Decima and say oh, I think it's a good thing that it's in the game. It adds variety, blah 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 blah. But if they're not going to use it, I'm going to save it for the discussion I want to have about Worlds. All right. But yeah, it's a thing. Blooded. Yes, Blooded can now actually use their Corpseman. So for those of you not familiar, because you didn't watch my Blooded rundown, technically, in the PDF rules as published, you couldn't select the Corpseman and use him at all. Obviously, everybody was ignoring that and allowing Blooded players to use the Corpseman, but they've just said, yeah, actually, the Corpseman is still part of your team. Okay. Mandrakes. So a couple of things that confuse me here. Faction rules Shadow Passage. First sentence changed to read, once per turning point, one friendly Mandrake operative within Shadow can use Shadow Passage when it performs a reposition action. That's what it always said, as far as I can find out. And I've looked at people who reviewed them before this came out and have got the text in videos. Obviously, Games Workshop's updated the digital text. I cannot fathom what they think they've changed. If you know what's changed with Shadow Passage, leave a comment so we can all learn. The Shadow Glyph is the Super Conceal normalization. And then we've got a really niche timing rule. I'm not sure how somebody asked this question. It's very stupid. Question. If a Night Fiend operative incapacitates an enemy operative, then the enemy operative attempts to inflict damage as a result of being incapacitated, such as the Legionary Unending Bloodshed, and the Night Fiend's operative Obelix, with the menhirs, Obelix rule ignores that damage. Does the Obelix become active again when the enemy operative is removed from the kill zone? I know it's not Obelix like Asterix and Obelix. It just amuses me to mangle the pronunciation. Now, to understand this, we have to understand what Obelix does, right? And why he fell into the magic potion when he was at... No, I've gone off the reservation. The Ubile? No, the Obelix, right? Whenever this operative is readied, or if this operative incapacitates an enemy operative with its husk blade, its Obelix becomes active. Whenever its Obelix is active and an attack dice would inflict damage on this operative, you can roll 1d6. On a 5-up, ignore the damage inflicted from that attack dice, and the Obelix is no longer active. So what this is trying to say, somebody somewhere was trying to argue that if your Obelix is active, and you kill someone, and then you use it, and then they do something, and then they're removed, can you charge your Obelix for a second time? No. Right? No. Which makes a lot of sense to me. I'm sure I'm going to get flack in the comments for mispronunciating Obelix, but did you know... Man, this is going to be the tangent to end all tangents. This idea that we have to pronounce loanwords in the sort of accent of the nation that we're loaning them from is very new. In the 1920s, if you ever read the Jeeves and Wooster books, I'm sorry, we're going into a rabbit hole. You'll know that Jeeves was Bertie Wooster's valet, right? And if you in the 20s, if you pronounced that valet, people would have thought you were putting on pretentious airs and graces, and it would have been a strange thing. At some point, and I'm really interested in the sociological thing of this, at some point we stopped and we started instead to admire people who pronounced loanwords in the accent of the country that we'd loaned them from. So we started to say valet instead of valet. But that it's just one of those really interesting things that's not always been the case. It kind of annoys me that it's now a thing that's now the proper thing to do. But anyway, come for the FAQ read downs, stay for the weird tangents involving a novel series set in the 1920s about a man and his butler. Not a butler, a valet. Very important. Right. Felgor Ravagers. Super Conceal normalization. Good. Right, so this is one that needs a little bit of explanation. Rules commentary. Question. If one of my dice is re-rolled or replaced by an opponent's rule, e.g. Hand of the Archon's Omen or Warp Coven's Fate itself as my weapon, can I still use the Violent Temperament strategy employed to re-roll my attack dice? Yes, but only the dice that were not re-rolled are or replaced. Now, some people have read this and said, oh gosh, some terrible people were trying to argue that they could re-roll dice. No, you're wrong. You need to look at Violent Temperament. So Violent Temperament says, whenever a friendly Felgor Ravager operative is fighting or retaliating, after rolling your attack dice, you can use this rule. If you do, you must re-roll all of your attack dice. You cannot only re-roll some. So what this is actually saying is that this is actually a fair enough thing for the Felgor player to have asked, right? So when the scurrilous Warp Coven player uses Fate itself as my weapon to change one of my dice, and the rule says I can't re-roll that dice, does having that one anchor dice that I can't re-roll lock me out of playing this because it says I can't only re-roll some? And the answer is no. You put that one dice to the side, Warp Coven player still gets to have affected that one dice, but you still get to use your Violent Temperament if you wish to spend your CP to re-roll all your other dice, right? So maybe you roll a hand of dice, you got one hit, right? And then the warp coven player goes, cool, I'll turn your hit into a 1. And then you go, okay. But then you pick up you spend for violent temperament, you pick up all the other dice and you get to re-roll those. That's what this FAQ is saying, right? Not that some Velgor player was trying to argue that he should re-roll all of the dice, including that one, but that he was trying to argue he should still get to re-roll the rest of the dice. So, good FAQ in my book. Warp Coven. So Sangor, when published, had infinite range auto pistols. The range 8 that most people always thought should have been there is now there, which is fine, good. And then they have, well, I'll read it. Question. For the Psychic Cabal Firefight ploy, does the Sorcerer Operative also gain any benefits the other Sorcerer Operative has from Boons of Tzeentch, e.g. Twisted Fate? No. So the Psychic Cabal, I should have put on the slide, damn it. The Psychic Cabal, that's the one that lets you borrow a spell, right? Commonly used to get 2 Doom Bolts in a turn, because Doom Bolt's pretty good. But it means that if you do that, the guy who's using Psychic Cabal to borrow Doom Bolt from another guy doesn't get to use the boon that makes Doom Bolt better, right? He has whatever boons he had. So you don't get to borrow the effects of the boon and the effects of the spell. Come on, Warp Coven players. Your team is strong enough without needing to ask these kinds of questions. Blades of Cain have a super conceal normalization, right? And then they have an interesting FAQ. So, question. If an operative is able to perform 2 shoot actions in an activation and uses the Slicing Hurricane Dire Avenger aspect technique, can it perform both shoot actions during the same reposition action? Yes. So now to understand this, we need to learn 2 things. First of all, we need to remember that the Exarchs, including the Dire Avenger Exarch, can indeed do 2 fights or 2 shoots. So there's our operative who's able to perform 2 shoot actions. Slicing Hurricane. Use this aspect technique when a friendly Dire Avenger operative is performing the reposition action. The operative can perform the shoot action during the activation. It must do so in a location that can be placed, and any remaining move distance it had from the reposition action can be used after it does so. You must select a Shuriken Catapult, Shuriken Pistol, or Twin Shuriken Catapult for that shoot action. So if you're a Dire Avenger Exarch, you can now, with this aspect technique, you can do and 3 APL, right? But you can just mix up your reposition and your 2 shoot actions, so you could move, shoot, move a bit more, shoot a bit more, and move a bit more if you wanted to, right? I don't know how useful or often that's going to come up, but it's pretty cool, right? Euclidean Starstriders, pistols, well, technically he doesn't. He has a shotgun and a pistol, but it's the pistol barrel. It's the pistol barrage thing. I've seen some people getting overexcited because this all while in control range of an enemy operative has been crashed out. It's been scratched out because it was redundant text, not because you can now suddenly do it in combat. Sorry, and this makes the Voidmaster even worse. Like people were like, "Oh yeah, no, the rule definitely shouldn't let you shoot 3 times. That's stupid," and people were saying that about Inquisition or Corsairs, where one of the weapons is a fusion pistol or a plasma pistol, and they'd be like, "Oh, I don't want them shooting their plasma pistol twice. It's definitely wrong." And then you read Euclidean Starstriders and go, "Wow, hope the rules meant to say that, because we were looking at being able to shoot a shotgun and then a las pistol, and now we can't do that, so it's fine." But it is just the pistol barrage normalization, right? And then just a quick note. So Starstriders have 2 rules, disciplinary and merciless, that both basically hand out balanced, and then they say if you have balanced, you get ceaseless. And this is just clarification that it's like, if you have balanced, you get ceaseless, replacing the balanced. It's not you get balanced and ceaseless, right? It's you get ceaseless. Okay, good. Commandos have super conceal normalization on the Grot, and then we have something called Torrent Zero. Eh? So the Burner Boy, on his Deluge setting, has Torrent Zero. And it says, note, Torrent Zero means you can't select a secondary target, but the weapon still has the Torrent special rule for all other purposes, e.g. the Condensed Stronghold rule, see Killzone Volcus in the Kill Team Callbook. So Torrent Zero, essentially what they're saying here is that when they wrote the game and they playtested the game, they were still giving the Burner Boy's Deluge weapon lethal 5-up in Strongholds and on board the Gallodark. Were you, lads? Did that really just slip through? Like, It feels like you invented a new rule out of whole cloth here, and it feels like your blue text might be a lie, and this might be a balance change. Like, I don't think it's a bad change, right? I'm just saying, if you're going to make claims with your blue and your magenta, and you're going to say, oh, magenta is balance changes, blue's just because we were unclear, we're sorry, but it was always meant to be played this way. Like, really? So when you play tested this, you play tested it with. I mean, okay, look, I'll just choose to believe them. It's easier, right? It's easier than accusing them of something they maybe they didn't do, right? I want no proof. Maybe they didn't play test it like that. It just seems a bit fishy, but hey, whatever. Just choose to believe. It's fine. Just fine. Give benefit of the doubt. Fine. Assume good faith. Fine. Brew Brothers. We got a super conceal normalization for the Psychic Familiar, and this was the most egregious one because the Psychic Familiar super conceal was written totally differently. Big changes to Brewmind Devotion. So this used to say it was any action excluding fight and mind control. So you could fall back. Now, why you'd want to fall back on death, I'm not sure, but you could fall back, okay? So now they've scrubbed out mind control, but changed it to a 1 AP action, so you still can't mind control, right? You also can't fall back. And then separately to the AP nonsense, they've added in that you can't do explosives, which was the case in the previous edition, but they seem to have changed that for this edition, and I certainly was playing high on the hog of using, I would always put my icon ward near my explosives guy so that I could, if my explosive guy got killed, I could always manage to both drop and then detonate the explosives because it was funny. Can't do that anymore, which is sad for me, but hey, it was supposed to be the rule all along. And in this case, I do believe them because it was the rule in the last edition. They probably just made a copy error, changing explosives to mind control. I don't know. It's now basically back where it was in the previous edition, right? Yeah. Hunter Clade have received a super conceal normalization. Okay. Chaos Cult. So Chaos Cult had a misprint on the card where the Blessed Blade was on a 32mm base, and it's supplied in the kit with a 28mm base. So now you play it on a 28mm base. I really, really, really hope that not even one person ripped the base off their Blessed Blade when the rules first came out. Went, oh well, I guess they're on 32 now because we're playing a finely balanced game where every millimeter counts. Right? We're not, except when we are, but we shouldn't be. So it's back to 28mm. Good. Hyrotech Circle, we got a super conceal normalization, and then we've got a buff to the Time Splinter. So the Time Splinter has an ability to teleport somebody who's within 6 to somewhere else within 6, and now it's gained, right, that they only intended for that to be a horizontal 6, so you can place him on any vantage point, right? So you could use it even just to teleport someone from where they are to 2 stories up, right? Because it's only within 6 horizontally. That's cool buff. Not a buff. Clarification. Was always play tested and played that way for sure. Could have been. I don't know. The Tempestus Aquilons. Oh, I am a... Oh, right, okay. This doesn't make any sense at all to me. The rule says, whenever a friendly Tempestus Aquilon operative is shooting against or fighting against a ready enemy operative. And it used to say, whenever a friendly Tempestus Aquilon operative is shooting or fighting a ready enemy operative. Why is the word against had to be inserted? Like, what is the like Lionel Hutz quality rule lawyering that was happening here previous to them adding the word against? If you know, let me know in the comments. Because sometimes you look at these errata and you were like, why? Like, I wish you had a designer's commentary next to it going, we did this because some players thought you could do this and they're stupid. I mean, generally speaking, I wish all FAQ and errata documents were more like the Old World FAQ and errata. If you've never read the Old World FAQ and errata documents, even if you don't play Warhammer the Old World FAQ and errata documents are basically just the designers calling you a stupid twerp for a minute. It's pretty cool. It's like, no, you can't. That would be dumb. But no, fine. We're all business here in Kill Team Land, aren't we? So we don't get to know why. I want to know why. The video is really an attempt to try and explain the why, where I can divine the why, but I can't divine the why. This change is just totally bizarre to me. Vespid Stingwing. Oh, look at all the stuff that I had to put on this slide. Super Conceal Normalization. Fine. Torrent Zero been added to the Swarm Guard Flamer. Fine. Flying counts as moving in a couple of cases. So for the purposes of Neutron Charge and Airborne Predators, which previously was when you move, it's now when you move or when you fly. So that's good, right? Ocelli. So it gains. It now reads, until the end of the action, it gains all benefits from the first and second main features of Vantage Terrain. When determining height differences between operatives, Vantage Terrain rules treat the friendly operative as being 3 inches higher than it currently is, but not when determining the distance for communion, right? It used to say, if you look at the left here, this is from the Dead Tree version of the rules, until the end of that action, when selecting a valid target, treat the friendly operative as being on Vantage Terrain and 3 inches higher than it currently is. I.e., it benefits from the second rule for Vantage Terrain. So now it explicitly benefits from it gains all benefits from the first and second things. So in other words, you are gaining now, firstly, whenever an operative on Vantage Terrain is shooting an operative that has an engage order, its ranged weapon has the accurate 1 special rule, and if the operative is at least 2 inches lower than it, or accurate 2, it's 4 inches lower than it. So you are 3 inches higher, so you're always going to gain accurate 1, where under the previous wording, maybe you didn't. General question, who's been remembering that Vantage hands out accurate 1? Like, in all their games, who's been remembering that fact? I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Okay. Final thoughts. Did I miss anything significant? Do you want to take me to task for my pronunciation of Obelix? Oubliette? It's from Oubliette. I can't contort my mouth. I'm not French enough. Oubliette. Oubliette? Oubliette, because it's a miniature prison for a soul or something. Like, it's cool. I can't be doing with it. I have some thoughts about the World Championships, and that might have been the more interesting video to make. But I thought, this FAQ is going to go stale. Do you know? If you tune into the hobby stream on Wednesday, I'll probably hold forth on my opinions that I have on reflection after a weekend spent obsessing over the World Championships. They're not particularly spicy. They're just I'm a bit jaded. I don't know. A bit something. The important thing is everybody had a lovely time, right? And that is the important thing. Assuming they did have a lovely time. We don't actually know. Some people might have hated it. Who knows? But everyone I follow on Instagram seems to have had a lovely time. So that's fine. That's good. But I will talk about that in the hobby stream. Zimbad at the moment claims to be fit and well and healthy to play Kill Team tomorrow. So there's probably going to be no video tomorrow, depending on how long our game of Kill Team goes. So probably the next video is going to be Thursday, but there's going to be the hobby stream on Wednesday. So look forward to seeing you all there. I want to say thank you to all my members, subscribers, supporters, people that are active on the Discord and everybody like that. And especially to Compendium Lover, who I finally managed to remember to put him on the slide deck, right? Because he is subscribed at the highest tier. The highest tier is silly money, right? And gets a personalised shout out after every single video when I remember, which will be every time going forward now because I've actually put him on the slides. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you all. I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope that let me know to boost my ego, make me feel happy about myself, even though this is not news anymore, right? If I've added anything by my rambling and reflection that is novel to you, that you didn't feel like you'd already picked up from Crit or Andy or any of these other people that had done the video at the correct time, i.e. when it came out, let me know in the comments. All right, guys, I will see you for the hobby stream on Wednesday. Cheery, 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 cheery. Bye, 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 bye.